Hello. So I am sitting in my car again, waiting for my girls to finish up their visit with their dad. So we are going to go over Courageous Influence. We are on week 4, day 3, and that is page 127 in the book if you are following with me. And it says, "When he went ashore, he saw a large crowd and had compassion on them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. Then he began to teach them many things. When it grew late, his disciples approached him and said, 'This place is deserted, and it is already late. Send them away so that they can go into the surrounding countryside and villages to buy themselves something to eat.' 'You give them something to eat,' he responded. They said to him, 'Should we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give them something to eat?' He asked them, 'How many loaves do you have? Go and see.' When they found out, they said, 5 and 2 fish. Then he instructed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties. And he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and broke the loaves. He kept giving them to his disciples to set them before the people, and he also divided the 2 fish among them all. Everyone ate and was satisfied." And that is Mark 6:34 through 42. Let me turn this air conditioner down a little bit. Okay. So it says, "One of my dear friends is an incredible author and teacher. As you can imagine, her life is busy with a constant stream of people wanting to gain access to her. The 2 of us met several years ago at her church in Nashville. We hit it off immediately and kept in touch a bit for a few months, and she ended up coming close to my city to speak at a conference, so I decided to go, even though I went alone. My friend was the only person that I knew there. When she saw me, I immediately felt welcomed. I sat in the front row with her during worship. I cheered her on during her message, and she invited me to spend time with her in the ever-exclusive green room for speakers, and she invited me to stay and eat lunch with her and the worship team. She didn't have to invite me or include me, but she did anyways, and I will never forget her being generous with her time, her wisdom, her space, and her very life. She opened the door and gave me access. When I think about the word access, I often think of places where I'm not allowed to go, places where I need a key or a code to enter. Sometimes a person of influence, particularly if she is a public speaker, leader, or author, can feel inaccessible, especially when being invited usually requires having a status or a connection. It can feel like only a select few have the opportunity to be on the receiving end of that person's individualized attention. Because we are all given a measure of influence by God, we can choose whom we influence and how we do it. We hold the keys to give it away generously or hold it high so that no one can reach it. Jesus gave generous access to his influence, his teachings, and his mercy. He healed many and he fed thousands. He saw each individual person, calling them daughter and son. And at every moment in Jesus' life, he chose to give those around him access to himself, his power, and his forgiveness. We are called to live our lives in that same way. Let's be invitational and generous with whomever God brings into our lives. Describe a time when someone of influence, like Karina's friend, invited you in, or when you have done that for someone else who looks up to you. In the verses leading up to today's story about the feeding of the 5,000 in Mark 6, Jesus heard about the unjust death of his cousin, John the Baptist. John had lived his life testifying about Jesus and making the way for others to know that Jesus is the Savior of the world. But after being imprisoned, John was beheaded due to a regretful promise King Herod had made to his stepdaughter. And you can find that in verses 14 through 29 of Mark 6. When Jesus heard the news, he went away to a remote area to be alone and to grieve. But the crowds found out where he was headed and followed him. And that's in Matthew 14:12 through 13. In the midst of his own grief and rejection, Mark 6:1 through 6, Jesus sees the crowds who have come a long way to find him and has compassion on them. Imagine how exhausted he is, and yet his heart is breaking at their longing for a shepherd. He's like a mother who endlessly pours herself out for her children, even when she has nothing left to give. He takes the time to teach them many things, feeding them abundantly with spiritual food, as he is about to do with the physical food. As the day turns toward late afternoon, Jesus turns to his disciples and tells them that they need to feed the thousands who have gathered. They are bewildered that Jesus would ask such an impossible task of them, but eventually they find food among the crowd, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And after Jesus blesses the food and the disciples begin to distribute it, the loaves and the fish miraculously multiply, and everyone eats their fill. Pages are stuck together. So in his grief, Jesus could have said no to the crowds. He would have been completely justified to close and lock the door and put away the keys to his influence for a time. But instead, his compassion for the people led to a generous overflow of his influence. And Jesus hosted the crowd of thousands, graciously opening the way of life and truth, and spent time caring for their souls and their stomachs. It takes wisdom to know when to lean in and give others generous access to our influence when we are struggling ourselves. When was a time that you felt that you had no more to give but relied on God to give you the energy to pour into someone else? So I've truly been struggling with a lot right now, and some of you know a lot about that situation. So as you can see and tell, I've had to play catch up quite a few days where I haven't been able to go live because I've been dealing with so much and struggling with so much daily. But these Bible studies, these lives are so important. So I'm trying to do my best and trust God and just follow what he's asking me to do. And I'm just praying every day that he's going to give me the strength to pull through so that I can be able to go back to doing my lives every day, because I feel so much better when I do it every day. Not just because I am listening to, because yes, that does help. It has a lot to do with the way you feel. I mean, I don't know about you, but for me anyway, as long as I'm reading my Bible every day and actually studying something and learning something and doing something to get to know God and get closer to God, and I feel so much better every day when I do that, and I'm sure the rest of you do too. But not only that, I want to be sure that because he has asked me to do this, that I am following through with my commitment in saying, yes, this is what I'm going to do. And I know that he understands, and he knows when something is really hard for me. But again, that is stepping out of your comfort zone, taking your stand, and letting your light shine. So it's kind of something that he's asked me to do, and I've got to kind of up my game and add a little bit more commitment and dedication to make this happen on a daily. And I'm not saying there's not going to be days that, I have to miss or whatever, but I'm going to do my best to do better. So that's something that I've been struggling with. But what's some things that you all have been struggling with on a day-to-day basis that you feel like you need to up your game and do better so that you can let your light shine and give yourself generously to others around you? Okay, so this says, Jesus' generosity is evident in how and where he met the people that he influenced. At times during his ministry, Jesus taught in the synagogues, but most of his recorded ministry was done where many would have access to him. On the hills and the mountainsides, at the seashore, while walking from one town to another, and inside people's homes. And because of his intentionality, people from different socioeconomic socioeconomic classes, women, children, the blind, the bleeding, the demon-possessed, and even the lepers were all able to have access to him. Those who were pushed to the margins of society by cultural and religious standards were restored to their communities because Jesus made it possible. He held his arms open and he embraced them, redeeming them with his words of forgiveness and his healing hands. Katrina wrote that we are all given a measure of influence by God. What does it look like for you to generously give others access to your influence? If it helps, consider the way that Jesus' generosity was evident in how and where he met people. So maybe it's not just that we need to make ourselves more open, but we need to make ourselves more accessible. Maybe open your, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but expand the people that you talk to. Open up your networking systems all around you. Think of more groups of people that you can talk to and just kind of expand the areas of influence that you have on people in your life. When you go to church, don't just sit in the back corner and not talk to anybody. Start talking to people and start opening up more to others. When you're at work, don't just be the one person that just goes in, I'm just here to work. I mean, we are. A lot of us are. A lot of us are like that. But don't stick to the fact that you're not there to make friends. You're not making friends for yourself. You're making friends so that you can share and be an influence. So in all of your groups, when you're standing around in the parent loop waiting for your kids to come out, just like the other story we read the other day, I'm pretty sure that we read it out loud the other day, and it's not one that I've already done in advance, but if it is, then you'll see that tomorrow or the next day, because I'm only 2 days ahead. So anyway, if you haven't heard that story yet, but I'm pretty sure we did read it, go back and watch it and listen to it, about how, I don't even remember the woman's name now, but she started talking to her son's friends' parents during parent pickups and drop-offs at school, and it grew into a beautiful friendship to where she got to share her knowledge, and her husband even got to share his knowledge with this woman's husband, and her son got to share and minister to the other son. So even in little things like that that you think are no big deal, don't forget to plant those seeds, because once the timing is right, then you will be able to bless these people with this influence that you have. And planting those seeds is very important, because even if you aren't the one that gets to influence them and actually see the harvest, that's okay, because we have planters, we have those who water, and then we have God who helps everything to grow. And then sometimes you'll see the harvest of the work that you've done on the seeds that you planted, and sometimes you won't. But you still know that you are making an impact and you are making a difference just by planting those seeds. Okay, back to this lesson. So Mark 6:31 tells us that Jesus wanted to get away from the crowds for a while to rest, but the crowds wouldn't allow it. They followed Jesus and his disciples and didn't even give them time or space to eat. And yet it was from the place of emptiness that Jesus was able to feed them with abundance. Rest is crucial, and when we're grieving, it is a necessary part of our everyday rhythms. But we all have times and even lengthy seasons of life when rest is exclusive. We might be in survival mode, caring for a family member or caring for our own mind and body, just trying to get from one day to the next. Or as in Jesus' case, there might be those around us whose needs we're called to meet. So we set aside rest to just be with them and meet their needs. Jesus saw the crowds gathered, and he had compassion on them. Compassion requires us to be able to really see others and to recognize their needs and then feel for them. Jesus was emotionally moved by what he saw in the people's eyes and by the vast size of the crowd that had gathered to hear from him that day. Like Katrina's friend, Jesus didn't have to invite people in. He didn't have to be hospitable or allow the crowds into his personal space. He could have smiled and nodded and sent them home as the disciples had suggested. But compassion opened his arms to care for the people who needed a shepherd, and though he was empty, he gave of himself until everyone else was filled and satisfied. Read Psalms 23. How does this image of God being our shepherd show his generosity and compassion towards us? Okay, so Psalms 23 says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." How does Jesus' generosity give you the courage to do the same with your own influence? Reflect on this prayer and make it your own today. Lord, you are a God who sees, a God who notices, and has compassion. Thank you. I pray that I would be able to hold the influence that you've given me loosely, not hoarding it for a special few, but offering it generously to many, just as Jesus has done. So help me to do the same. Amen. I hope that you all have enjoyed today's lesson, and I hope to see you back here tomorrow. If you guys need me for anything, feel free to let me know, whether it's in a private message or just let me know here in the comments. If you have any questions about anything with my Mary and Martha, you can also contact me with that. And of course, for those of you who don't know, I also sell Color Street. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can let me know about that as well, and I can get you into that VIP group. And also, I am super excited. I don't know if you all have met or seen Teresa Sharp in here in the group, but she also sells paparazzi, which these are paparazzi earrings that I am wearing, and I think they are gorgeous. And then I have this paparazzi tan snap bracelet. But she is going to bring me some of her jewelry stash on Saturday or Sunday, and I'm going to host a party for her. So I will be creating a party group and going live to show off some of that beautiful jewelry. And then you all can purchase, which I'll have it on hand so you can purchase from me. And I'll get it to you and then get the money back to her. And for every 10 pieces that I sell, I'm going to earn a free piece through this party. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can let me know that as well. But again, I hope that you all have a very blessed and wonderful day. If you have any prayer requests, you can leave those down in the comments. You can send me a private message or make your own post. And again, don't forget to also stand up and encourage each other in this group. I really want to start seeing you all posting things, and not just me posting everything in this group. I want to see you all start posting things that you think are encouraging and uplifting for all the other men and women in these groups. I know that Mary and Martha focuses on women, empowering and uplifting women, but we do have some men in here, and a lot of these lessons I don't think are gender specific. So of course there are a few that specifically mention women, but a lot of this stuff is not gender specific, so that's why I go ahead and allow them to be in this group. But again, be sure that when you're hopping on, you're saying hey or anything, because with the way Facebook algorithm works, and I want to reach more people. If you have any friends or family or anybody that you think would be interested in this group, go ahead and add them. They don't have to purchase anything. I just want to get more people in here to be able to hear the lives and listen to the daily devotionals. But be sure that you're saying something, because when you comment on this, it boosts my algorithm and it makes me pop up more often in people's news feeds, not just your own. But it also makes my group show up more often for others, so that they can see it and then say, oh, well, I think I might be interested in that, and click join and be able to be added to the group. So it helps me grow. And that's one of the ways that you can help me grow even without making a purchase, is by being sure to comment on all of my posts, even if it's just saying hi. So that will help me out a lot. You can just say #replay. That helps, and that's just another thing that people do to help boost algorithm. But again, I hope that you all have a very blessed and wonderful day, and if you have any questions about anything, feel free to message me. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.